All right, guys, so we're going to talk about using a scanner object today. And scanner is basically used for a lot of different things, but today what we're going to use it for is getting user input off of the console. All right, so we're going to start out by creating a new class in here, and that thing is going to be an other person program. So since it's a program, we want it to have a main method. And then we're going to go ahead and finish that so that we get something like this. Okay? And inside of there, we're going to create a scanner object called input. And we're going to be scanning system.in. And what that means is that basically we're going to be using the console. And I'll explain that a little bit better to you in a second here. But that's going to look like this. Scanner. And I'm going to call it input. That's the name of my scanner. And I want it to be a new scanner. And it's scanning system.in. So basically a scanner object can be used to scan a lot of different things, like a file or another string or something else. Okay? But for right now, we have it doing system.in. We're used to system.out. Okay? So system.in is the same console. It's just that we're inputting stuff instead of outputting stuff. Okay, so if yours looks like mine, then scanner is underlined in red, and that's because it's one of those special classes like graphics that needs to be imported before we can use it. Okay, so if I mouse over scanner just like that, I leave my mouse hovering over it, then I can go to this import scanner option, and that'll add this import statement up here. Okay, and so if that didn't work for you, then you can just type that in for yourself. And now it knows which scanner class I'm trying to use, basically. All right. So then the next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to make sure that we close the scanner after we're done using it. So we always want to close scanners, scanner objects, when done. All right. So that's going to be input.close. And if you guys notice, let me just kind of go back a step here. All right. If I leave it like this, it's got this warning to me. And it says the local variable input is never read. Okay, well, that's a little bit different from what I was expecting there. But basically, like anytime you use a scanner, you want to make sure that you close it. So input.close is the command for that, or the method for that. All right. In between those two, we're going to do some prompting of the user to give us some information. Okay? And so what we're going to do is we're going to kind of follow the order of things over here in other person. So we're going to ask for the other person's name. We're going to skip age originally and get the activity and the prize possession, and then at the end we're going to get the age, and I'll explain why we're doing that a little bit later. But we're going to go ahead and prompt for the other person's age, or name I should say, and then we're going to create a variable to store the name. And we're going to use input, the scanner, to get the name. All right? So this is going to look like this. System.out.print. I like using print in this case instead of println. Okay? And we're just going to say enter the other person's name. Okay, I'm going to minimize this over here so you guys can see the whole thing. So that's prompting the other person for the other person's name. And then what we're going to do is going to create a string, call it name, and set it equal to or assign it the value from the input dot next line. Okay. So before we go any further, I'm just going to show you how that works. Okay. So right here we're creating a scanner object called input. Then you can see that we're printing out enter the other person's name. We see that here. And what you should see here is that we have this blinking cursor, and it's on this side of the E, and we would expect that it would be over here. But even if it shows up over here where it was, if I start typing, okay, let's say that this person's name is Theodore, okay, if I start typing, it types over here for me. Okay, so when I do system.in, it shows up in green. Okay, anything that I'm typing in, and when I hit return or enter on the keyboard, it's going to read in Theodore using this next line method, and then it's going to assign Theodore to name. All right. So again, that came from here, and when I hit enter over here, okay, it just did that, and now it's past this line, name is assigned the value Theodore, and input gets closed. All right. So we could show that by saying something like, you guys don't have to copy this down, but I'm just going to say you entered. Okay, you don't need this plus name. And I'll run it again so you can kind of see what's going on. Okay, so Bobby this time. Okay, you entered Bobby. So it assigned the variable name to the value that was being scanned from the console. All right, hopefully that's making sense to you. Let's go ahead and do some more stuff here. So the next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to kind of follow that same pattern for the activity and for the possession of this other person. Okay. So we're going to prompt and read activity and possession. So we're going to go system.out.print, enter the other person's favorite activity. And I like to put that a colon and then a space before the quote, so that when we get something entered, there's a space between what's being printed and what's being input. Okay. All right. So again, activity is going to be a string. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing for the possession. Okay, and so here we're going to say possession equals input dot next line again. Okay. So we're just prompting for a new thing and then getting it back in and storing it in a variable for the name, for the activity that they like to do, and for their favorite thing that they have. Okay. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to prompt for their age. In this case, we have to use a different method than next line. Okay, so far we've been using just next line. Since this thing is we're expecting a whole number back, an int back, we're going to use next int. Yikes, I'm having a hard time here. We're going to use the next int method to get the age. All right, so same type of prompt here. And then we're going to go int age equals input dot next int. Okay. So the idea here is now we've input everything that we need in order to create an other person object, okay, that we defined last week. All right. So I'm going to just put a blank line here. So println with nothing in it, that prints a blank line. And then I'm going to create an other person object. So other person, I'm just going to call it OP for other person. And I'm going to make that equal to a new other person with the name that we entered and the age that we entered and the activity and possession. Okay. So here what we're doing is we're creating an other person using the values that we've input. And then we're going to test that it worked by telling that other person OP to do its about me method. Okay? So op.aboutme. All right, so I might be going a little bit quicker than you can, but let's go ahead and run this thing. Okay, so here's the other person's name. We're going to say that this is Drake. All right, what's Drake's favorite activity? Singing. All right, and what's their favorite possession? Gold mic. They like singing. Maybe they have a gold mic that they like. Okay. Enter the other person's age. How old is Drake? 29. Somebody knows. All right. So, hopefully what you're understanding here is that as we go through here, okay, enter the other person's favorite possession, it's waiting for me to hit enter before it is allowed to do this next line method. Okay, it's waiting for me to put in that special character of an input character or enter character before it reads gold mic and stores it in possession. All right, then it goes on to enter the other person's age. It's waiting for me to put enter before it enters the 29 into age. Then once I hit return, it should print out a blank line, create another person object, and tell that other person called OP to do about me. All right, so I'm going to hit return now, and there's what we see. So if I expand this, you can see the stuff that I already did is still there. Okay, and now it did op.aboutme or op.aboutme. My name is Drake. I'm 29 years old. I like singing. I have a gold mic. Okay, is this idea making sense for you guys for the most part? You feel like you understand what just happened? All right. So if we look at the other person class, remember that the other person class describes the properties of an other person to be name, age, activity, and prize possession. and it has a constructor that we built last week that is using the name first, the age second, the activity, and then PP, which goes to prize possession. All right, and so when we do this, name, age, activity, possession, those values, age is going to the age, activity is going to the activity, etc. Okay? So we're getting the information from the user, and then we're sending it to the constructor to build one of those objects. All right? So there's a couple things that we could do wrong, right? And so I want you to pay attention to these things that could go bad. So the first thing is we could mix these up on accident. So we could say, I'm going to send you the possession, and then I'm going to send you the activity. Okay? And if we do it that way, and we run it, okay? So Bob likes to walk the dog, and favorite possession is a Captain America mask, and Bob is 5, okay? So then it says, my name is Bob, I'm 5 years old, I like a Captain America mask, I have walked the dog, right? So those two got mixed up because of the way that we sent them to the constructor. So the order of these things does matter. Okay, the computer or the language doesn't know that the activity is third. It just knows that this is a string, this is an int, this is a string, and this is a string. Okay. So having said that, if I screw things up another way by switching up activity and age, it won't even allow me to do that. All right. So it says this thing, whatever you send me, in this case name, has to be a string. Well, that's fine. Name is a string. Activity has to be an int, and that's why this is screwed up, because this is saying, if I look at this, it says the constructor other person string int string is undefined. So that means I can't send it in this order. If I'm going to use an other person, if I'm going to create an other person object, it has to be in the order string int string string. So let's fix it. And now it matches up the way that we want it to. Okay? So I'm hoping that that is making sense to you. There are some other things that could go wrong here. So I want to show you one other thing here, and that is when I run this thing again, okay, if we enter the person's name, and let's say this is Harry, enter the other person's favorite activity, swimming, okay, prized possession here, let's see, a palm phone, okay, and then enter the other person's age. Let's see, here he is 53 years old, but I'm not going to write it as 53, I'm going to write it as 53, okay? So everybody notice how I'm typing this in with 53, spelling out that word, or spelling out the number 53 here, okay? So when I hit return this time, now it gives me one of these errors, okay? This is an input mismatch error, and all that means is when this next int method here tried to read 53 and turn it into an integer, it couldn't do it, all right? So there are ways that we can basically look for that and write code that will kind of will handle that situation, but we're just not there yet. So we're just, if that happens, we're just going to rerun it and try to do it again, okay? But I'm just telling you that that might happen to you, so you should be kind of prepared for that, okay? All right. I know this is kind of getting along in the tooth, but there's one more thing that I have to show you. Other person has name, then age, then activity, then prize possession. But we didn't ask for things in that order, okay? And for the assignment that you're going to do, you're going to want to get things in order as well, right? So maybe you're asking for like a noun, and then an adjective, and then a number, and then an adverb, and then a color, whatever, okay? So if I try to do that over here, okay, so try to pay attention here. if I take this stuff where I'm asking for the age and I cut it out of here and I put it in between name and activity, all right, so I'm going in the order name, age, activity, possession, or more importantly, I'm going in the order string, int, string, string, it's going to mess things up. Okay, so enter the other person's name, Jim is fine. Enter the other person's age. Okay, pay attention to what happens after I enter the age here. Enter the age 25, and for whatever reason, it skips over me entering an activity and goes right to the favorite possession. So if I go ahead and I say, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to enter here, maybe it's the activity because I didn't enter that yet. So if this person likes to run, okay, when I hit enter, it says my name is Jim, I'm 25 years old, I like nothing, and I have running. Okay, so it doesn't really make sense. All right, and for whatever reason, when we use scanner, if you enter strings and numbers separately, it gets screwed up. Once you start entering a number, the rest of the strings get mixed up. Okay, so to fix that, we're going to make some changes in here. All right, we're going to use two different scanners. And this is the last thing that we're going to do. Okay, so this the first scanner is going to be for strings. So this is at the top of the class again. And I'm going to call this string input. And then I'm going to make another scanner and call that number input. It's really this follows the same pattern here. Okay. But then as I go through my code, I'm going to pay attention to the type of value that I'm receiving. Okay? And if it's a string, then I'm going to use string input to get that. And if it's a number, an int or a double, then I'm going to use number input to get that. All right? So right here where I have input, since that's a string, I'm going to go string input. And since this is an int, I'm going to go number input. All right? And now for activity, that's a string input. And for possession, that is another string input. Okay? So it's just easiest if you go ahead and use different scanners for different types. Then down here, we still have to close our string input. And we also need to close our number input. Okay, so this is in the same order that we just had it a second ago, and I'm just showing you that it works this time. All right, so Bob is 24, likes swimming, and has a Millennium Falcon. Okay, my name's Bob, I'm 24 years old, I like swimming, I have a Millennium Falcon. So that's all working the way that we expect it to work. All right, so we kind of covered a lot of different things here. Scanner is something new. Prompting for input and then receiving the input is something a little bit new for you guys. Using multiple scanners when you're mixing up types, okay? And then creating an object from the values that we input, okay? So again, like I said, kind of a lot of stuff. We saw the mismatch error, and we're just going to ignore that for now.